took me a few moments.
He's arrested by the Denver police and placed in the Denver Justice Center.
A few moments to get on this morning. We're covering the PAM BONDI hearing in the House Judiciary Committee live. There was some Substack live issue. There were some Substack issues, and I literally could not get in until just now. So the hearing has started. Jim Jordan is babbling about nonsense, and I think that's as good a point as any to start listening. He's just making his opening statement.
This individual's committed some removable offense. But on February 28th, 2025, Abraham Gonzalez is released to the streets. In fact, we can put that up. I think you can see this. Released. We got the form from
now,
the
unfortunately, we have
Center.
no choice. We have to sit through,
what kind of inmate was Mr. Gonzalez?
Jim
Jordan's
Jordan's
345
obstruction
days
and
that he was in
Republican
the
obstruction,
Denver Justice Center.
the denial of realities. So
violent to the staff, keep separate. So this guy was so bad, you had to keep him away from other inmates. He'd already assaulted some staff member, but Denver released this guy to the streets and instead of turning him over to ICE agents who would have come to the jail and arrested him there. And of course, we all know what happens.
I'm having a little bit of trouble with our live stream. Let me make sure everything's working well.
When the officers did apprehend Mr. Gonzalez out on the street, he assaulted one of the officers. This is what happens when you have a sanctuary jurisdiction. Right now in Minnesota, there are 1,360 detainer notices for violent offenders. Governor Walz and others have released
Keep talking. See if what you can do here. I'm sorry, guys. I can't see who's here yet. I'm having a little trouble bringing up the Substack.
Nationwide, it's
the Substack live stream. Hopefully, I'll be able to bring it up on my own so I can see it.
Where a detainer was filed.
There's been some work that Substack's been doing this morning, and I've had a lot of issues.
Times a detainer was filed, and those individuals were released to the streets instead of turned over to federal law enforcement. 17,864 times. Illegals who've been charged with the crime have been released to the streets, and thereby jeopardizing the safety of the public, the safety of law enforcement.
Come on, Jim, keep talking. And I'm so sorry, guys. I can't. YouTube,
frankly,
thank you for being here, guys.
The environment that results in the tragic deaths, like we saw with Miss Good and Mr. Preddy. A few years ago, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders said this in response to the State of the Union address. She said, "The divide in America today is normal versus crazy." And it's true.
It is true.
Because it's crazy not
Jim,
to have a border, which is what we had under the previous administration. It's crazy to abolish ICE, and it's
Jim
crazy
is crazy
to release
by
bad
choice.
guys who are here illegally to the streets when with one phone call, federal law enforcement will come to the jail and pick them up.
Okay, guys, now I can...
The mindset that says it's okay to release these guys is the same left-wing mindset.
Shut up, Jim. We'll listen to him. You haven't heard him. It's not like you haven't heard everything he's going to say anyway 100 times. He's an idiot. Hey, Tina, everybody, I can't see you all yet. Thank you for being here. I had some connectivity issues with Substack. They just sort of cleared themselves up. YouTube, thank you for being here. I can't see who's there. Jim Jordan is making his opening statement. He is dumb, Jordan, not about... yeah, it was weird, Jordan. Substack was having some serious issues there. Let's bring Jim back on, though.
Into President Trump, spending over $35 million to try to bring down their political opponent. To further this effort, they sought the phone records of over a dozen Republican members of Congress.
Now, remember, Jamie Raskin is going to be...
the Democrats said this was wrong.
You know,
they got bank records for scores of White House officials. They even paid at least one confidential human source $20,000 for information on President Trump. And of course, while doing all this, they couldn't tell us who planted the pipe bombs, who leaked the Dobbs opinion,
how are you? Hey,
and
Nana
who
loves
put cocaine
democracy.
in the White House. But thank goodness the American people saw through it all.
Thank goodness, Jim.
Americans were tired of being targeted for their beliefs, tired of the lawfare, tired of the rampant crime throughout this country, and that's why they overwhelmingly elected President Trump.
They didn't.
And what a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes.
Yes, we
Under
know
Attorney General
Donald Trump is a rapist
BONDI,
and a
the
pedophile.
DOJ has returned to its core missions.
Continue,
upholding
Jim.
the rule of law, going after the bad guys, and keeping Americans safe.
Look at that arrogant.
Trump Justice Department has
She's
restored
so
the rule
bad
of
at this,
law.
Pam
Murders are
Bondi.
down
She hasn't even
nationwide
gotten
by
started
20%,
yet, and she's so
DC
bad
violent
at it.
crime is down by 28%. The federal surge in D.C. resulted in
She knows
8,000
what
arrests,
she's in for, but she has
800
no
illegal
idea
guns,
what she's in for right now in
and the
terms
recovery
of
of 16 missing kids.
how she's going to be skewered in
Trump
this.
Justice Department apprehended a suspect in the pipe bomb investigation.
In this,
and they've arrested 6 of the
in this hearing.
our top 10 most wanted fugitives in just 1 year. Of course, they arrested narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro, and they seized a record number of drugs flowing into this country. Trump Justice Department put an end to targeting Americans for their beliefs, Attorney General Bondi rescinded Attorney General Garland's anti-parent memorandum.
Oh, that's a new. The anti-parent. I hadn't heard about the anti-parent
memorandum. The FACE
memorandum.
Act to target pro-life Americans. They've refused to tolerate attacks on places of worship and investigations of traditional Catholics that we saw in the previous administration. On
There
her
were no
first day,
investigations of Catholics.
Attorney General Bondi disbanded the Foreign Influence Task Force that was pressuring social media companies to censor Americans.
The Foreign Influence Task Force
and the Trump Justice Department
just an organization that was involved
under Attorney General Bondi, along with Director Patel,
making sure there's you don't
worked to
see
expose the political nature of Arctic Frost.
Shut
Jack
up!
Smith
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up, Jim! Shut up! Shut up!
Turned over hundreds of pages.
I got to talk, Jim. It was a you know what? Fuck it. Just why do you even bother?
That's why we
I don't
know
even
that
know why
Jack
I
Smith
bother
knew it was
fact-checking him in real time.
unconstitutional to seek to toll records from members. But since the litigation risk was low, and because members would never
Jordan,
find
he's
out about
talking,
the subpoena until years.
He's just talking about random shit because Republicans were told he's a chicken shit GOP House member, a crazy House member, and Republicans were told, there was a lot of reporting on this by Donald Trump, they are not allowed to bring up the Epstein files. So he's trying to bring up all the other fake stuff that Pam Bondi supposedly did, some of which is actually illegal, some of which is immoral, but he's trying to spin that to make some of it good. And it's all to sort of try to counteract the narrative that the village idiot Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche have been covering up for the Epstein files.
The Justice Department, under the leadership of Attorney General Bondi, has established a new National Fraud Division. In fact, I met with Colin McDonald, who will head that division, last week. I think he's going to do a great job. There's a lot of work to be done in that area, but I want to thank the Attorney General for her great work in the first year on the job, and I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jim, for thanking her.
Ranking member for an opening statement.
Thank you, guys, for thanking Jim.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Attorney General Bondi. You've got the best lawyer's job in America because your mission is justice and your clients are the American people. But to promote justice for the people, you've got to listen to the victims, like the women seated behind you today. Those are just some of the hundreds of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's global sex trafficking ring who are demanding that the truth be told and are demanding accountability for the abusers who trafficked and raped them. You still haven't met with these survivors. So with their permission, let me introduce to you the survivors and late survivors' family members who are present today.
He's a master.
There's Teresa Helm, there's Jess Michaels, Laura Bloom McGee, Danny Bensky, Liz Stein, Marina Lacerda, Sky and Amanda Roberts, who are the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Charlene Richard, and Lisa Phillips. Now, you're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General, whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there, and you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019.
You're right,
so it's
Lacey.
Clearly
he is.
not all
He
duplicative,
just.
but even if it were, why not release it?
So
just release
effective.
all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends, but you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up. Convicted sex trafficker and groomer Ghislaine Maxwell opened the gates of hell to Virginia Giuffre and hundreds of other victims, as Virginia recorded in her remarkable book, Nobody's Girl. But when Maxwell was subpoenaed to come testify before Congress, you and Todd Blanche quickly moved her from a higher security prison to a minimum security camp in Texas.
It's not going to be a good day for Pam Bondi.
5-star treatment, including catered meals, private gym time, and access to a therapy puppy. All because Todd Blanche, who's utterly failed to investigate the monstrous crimes of Epstein and Maxwell's co-conspirators, spent 9 hours with Maxwell and satisfied himself that she would have nothing untoward to say about Donald Trump, which is your only real interest in the matter, based on institutional performance. But abandoning victims and coddling perpetrators is what you do best. When the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the brutal killing in Minneapolis of Renee Good, a poet and 37-year-old mother of 3, by Trump's masked paramilitary ICE agents, you shut it down. You claim you're investigating the cold-blooded murder of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse at the VA. But how can we trust the administration when the president and Kristi Noem called Preddy a domestic terrorist and Stephen Miller called him a would-be assassin? Not only do you refuse to share evidence with the state and local investigators and prosecutors in Minnesota, you have blocked their access to the crime scene and the evidence. How are you seeking justice for Marimar Martinez, the Montessori school teacher in Chicago who was shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent who bragged about it on text? Or the family of Keith Porter, a father of 2 shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent in LA.
I hope they break her down
the family
today.
of Silverio Villegas
I hope they
Gonzalez,
rhetorically
shot and
break
killed
her
in Illinois
down.
minutes after he dropped his kids off at school. There's no sign of any movement at the Department of Justice. You even launched a criminal investigation into Renee Good's grieving widow. How sick is that?
Good for him.
But it's even worse. You've turned the People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument of revenge. Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza, and you deliver every time. He tells you to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook,
God,
and
he's
Jerome
amazing.
Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, and members of Congress like Adam Schiff, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris DeLuzio, and Maggie Goodlander, to name a few, and you snap to it. You replace real prosecutors with counterfeit stooges who robotically do the president's bidding. Nothing in American history
Counterfeit
comes close
stooges.
to this complete corruption of the justice function and contamination of federal law enforcement. And the good news is many serious lawyers at DOJ, including some of your own original appointees, have refused your lawless orders. Danielle Sassoon, your original pick for acting U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, resigned rather than follow your corrupt order to quash an indictment against Mayor Eric Adams as a political favor from Donald Trump. A Federalist Society member who clerked for Justice Scalia, U.S. Attorney Sassoon refused to participate in this blatantly corrupt scheme. Her top assistant, Hagan Scotton, an Iraqi war vet and 2-time Bronze Star recipient who clerked for Chief Justice Roberts, and then Judge Kavanaugh, promptly resigned too, writing to your office, quote, "I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." You and the president nominated Eric Siebert, a 15-year career prosecutor, to be your U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. But after 5 months of investigating Letitia James and James Comey, he found no evidence to justify criminal charges. So you forced him out. You replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's personal lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, who had 0 prosecutorial experience and no qualifications. And then you were humiliated when a federal judge found that this corrupt appointment was blatantly unlawful and threw out Halligan's indictments entirely. And grand juries of American citizens have repeatedly rejected your vendettas and baseless indictments brought by the hacks left at DOJ now, with 2 different grand juries in Virginia voting down indictments against Letitia James in a single week. And just yesterday, Another grand jury shut down your vendetta factory by rejecting indictments against the 6 members of Congress who had spoken out to remind all service members that they have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You tried to get a grand jury to indict 6 members of Congress who are veterans of our armed forces on charges of seditious conspiracy simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation. As your best lawyers are sacked for having participated in the January 6th case or just flee for the exits now, your new lawyers keep lying in court. In dozens of cases, they've been excoriated for lying to federal judges. Chief Judge Boasberg, right here in D.C., suggested your Department of Justice perpetrated a fraud on the court. Other judges found your statements to be, quote, inexplicably misleading, patently incredible, totally inconsistent, and so disingenuous that the court is left with little confidence that the government can be trusted to tell the truth about anything.
Wow.
Now, as ranking member, I asked the chairman to add a few extra rounds of questions today because we each have 5 hours of questions, not 5 minutes. But we're stuck with 5 minutes. That's clearly insufficient to give voice to America's victims and survivors and to demand answers about all the corruption and cover-ups that we see at DOJ right now. We've got just one round, so we ask you politely but firmly, Madam Attorney General, please do not waste 1 second of our precious time by evading questions, by changing the subject, or engaging in personal attacks against members of Congress. We saw your performance in the Senate, and we're not going to accept that. This isn't a game. In the Senate, you brought something with you called a burn book, a binder of smears to attack members personally for doing the people's work of oversight. Please set the burn book aside and answer our questions. And when you hear us reclaim our time, that means it's time for you to stop speaking. We only have 5 minutes, so when we reclaim our time, that means you stop. And if you don't, we will ask the chair to stop the clock and let you go on his time. The quality of justice in America depends on the character of our government. Please do your job and bring the Department of Justice back from the brink. The survivors seated behind you and the American people watching everywhere deserve a Department of Justice worthy of its name. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Without objection, all of the opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witness, the Honorable Pamela J. Bondi, has served as the Attorney General of the United States since February 5th, 2025. She previously served in the office of the White House counsel,
and to watch the
terms
Republicans
as the Florida Attorney General, and spent more than 18 years as a prosecutor. We welcome our witness and thank her for appearing today. We will begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand?
She's such a liar. I don't even trust her to be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, to the whole truth, that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, so help you God?
Fake smile. She's just
really
really
show that the witness has answered in the affirmative. Thank you. You can be seated, and please know that your written testimony will be entered into the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask that you summarize your testimony. Madam Attorney General, you may begin.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of this committee.
She's so bad at this.
Thank you for hosting me here today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to answer your questions,
I'm sure you
highlight the work of our department, and discuss the most important topic of all, keeping the American people safe.
And you are doing a great job of that, Pamela.
I was sworn into office as 87th Attorney General of the United States. I came into office with the goal of refocusing the Department of Justice on its core mission after years of bloated bureaucracy
which
and
is
political
to
weaponization.
Take revenge for the president.
The Department of Justice's core mission, is
now.
to fight violent crime, protect the American people, and defend the rule of law above all else. While our work is never done, we have made tremendous progress to make America safe again. In 2025, we saw the lowest murder rate in 125 years.
Why just why is just 100? What 250, 3,000 years? Why pick 125?
To 24, here's what you'll find: the murder rate is down 21%.
Oh, now it's down
Robbery
21%.
down 23%. Carjacking down 43%. Gun assault down 22%.
They make
Ag
up
assault,
statistics,
burglary,
of course,
could go on and on. Crime
with
is declining.
no proof of the statistics.
This did not happen by accident.
That,
the numbers tell an important yet straightforward story. President Trump has given us the resources, the support, and the leadership to protect the American people.
What's always amusing about her,
President
one of the
Trump's
reasons why she's
policies
so
have
bad at
saved
this
lives.
is
I cannot think of
she's
a
a lousy
policy outcome
actress.
more important
So
than
she tries to be
protecting the
performative.
lives
She
of
tries to
American
act like she's
citizens.
strong
Can you?
and tough and angry,
This
but
trend has
she's
been
none of
especially
them.
clear in
So
Washington,
if
D.C.
you watch her try
and
to
in Memphis.
perform
These are
this
two iconic
monologue
American
of an opening
cities
statement,
that
you know,
spent
watch how
years
bad she is
in the
at the
grip
performance.
of horrific violent crime. The Department of Justice surged law enforcement resources, and the results came quickly. Crime plummeted in both cities. And I want to make one point loud and clear.
Please do, Pamela
We
Jo.
achieved those results by working with Democratic mayors. Public safety.
She's going to get in trouble. She said
does not have
Democratic
party
instead of
registration.
Democrat
When your
mayors.
constituents
Democratic isn't
call
an insult.
911, they don't
Donald
ask for
is not
political
loving
views
that.
of the responding officer.
I can't believe she said
They
Democratic.
ask for
Why
help.
did she say
I
Democratic?
have federal
You
agents
call them
in
Democrat.
each and every
You don't call
one
them
of your
Democratic.
districts. They're here to help, and I am
And I'm
here
sorry,
to help.
guys. I will. Shut the
Many
fuck up.
cities and states have worked with us.
Shut up, Pamela Jo. I will. Guys, please, if you want an unfiltered, totally unbiased, both sides assessment of this, I totally understand if you go and listen to it yourself, because I will cut them off when I can't hear them anymore, or when I think their bullshit is just so reprehensible that I think it's, as much as I babble and as useless as my information is, I think it's healthier than listening to their shit. That includes PAM, it includes Jim Jordan, GYM, and any other Republican sycophant, weirdo, crazy nut on this particular committee. So I just want to kind of let you know ahead of time, for those who might be joining us for the first time, it's not going to be a clean when I cover these things. And I also have sound effects, for example.
We're going to win so much.
Right, I have sound effects, and I do use them, when things get too difficult. But I totally respect if you want a clean, perspective on this. If you want to go and listen, elsewhere, I won't be offended. But this is sort of how I cover this, because it's the only way I can stand it. But anyway, back to Pamela Jo.
America. As we seek to dismantle these drug trafficking networks that poison Americans, in 2025, our DEA
Thanks,
agents
Irish Yankee.
seized more than 47 million fentanyl pills and more than
47 million pills.
9,800 total kilos of fentanyl.
Let me know, who the fuck counted the pills?
369 million
When I laugh, I cough
potentially
because of this
deadly
postnasal drip.
doses that can kill Americans.
Who counted the
Meanwhile,
48,000
our attorneys are
pills? The
fighting for President
38,000
Trump's
pills.
agenda in courtrooms across this country. This administration has been sued 627 times.
That's because you're
We've
fucking
fought
criminals.
through a nonstop flood of bad faith temporary
Because you
restraining
break the
orders
law,
from
you're
liberal
criminals,
activist judges
you're
across this
disgusting,
country.
you don't understand how to
America
be
has
lawyers,
never
and you need to be
seen
sued.
this level of coordinated judicial opposition towards a presidential administration.
We've never had a presidential administration that was
It
this
is
corrupt
not
in the
only
entire history of the
an
United States of
unlawful
America.
attack on the executive branch's authority, but a serious attack on the democratic process. In spite of this unprecedented judicial activism, we've attained 24 favorable rulings at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Wow, Pamela
Their
Jo, that
emergency
can't be
docket
because
and
the
even
Supreme
more
Court is a
to come.
right-wing shit show
We've done
that's
so while ending the
indebted and
weaponization of the
indoctrinated to
prior
the validity,
administration
and
by
you fucking
dropping
lost
FASE
on
Act
some of the biggest ones
prosecutions,
also.
exposing
So
the
kindly
Arctic
fuck off.
Frost scandal
Sorry.
via congressional disclosure, thank you, Chairman, and restoring one tier of justice in this country. To address the Epstein files,
Oh.
more than 500 attorneys and reviewers spent thousands
What
of
about the
hours
thousands
painstakingly
of
reviewing millions of
FBI
pages
employees
to
that
comply
redacted out
with
the village
Congress's
idiot's
law.
name?
We've released more than 3 million pages, including 180,000 images,
Oh, Raskin cannot
all
wait
to the public,
to get at her.
while doing our very best in the time frame allotted by the legislation to protect
Jordan.
victims. And if you brought us a victim's name that was inadvertently released, we immediately redacted it.
Except
All
there were
members of
lots of
Congress,
victims'
as
names
you know,
inadvertently
are invited
released.
to visit DOJ to see for yourselves. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the Epstein survivors who are here today.
Thank you, Pamela.
I'm a career prosecutor, and despite what the ranking member said, I have spent my entire career fighting for victims, and
No,
I
you
will
haven't.
continue to do so.
Keep going.
I am
Yeah, the
deeply
victim
sorry
is Donald Trump.
for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
Donald
If you
Trump.
have any information to share with law enforcement about anyone who has hurt you or abused you,
She is so far beneath
FBI
the
is
dignity of the
waiting to
victims.
hear
This
from
statement is so far beneath the
I want
dignity
you
of the
to know
victims.
that any accusations of criminal wrongdoing will be taken seriously and investigated.
But what if they come up
The
and say
Department
Donald
of
Trump?
Justice is committed
They're aware that Donald
to
Trump
holding
raped
criminals
young girls.
accountable
Will that be
to the fullest extent of the law.
investigated to the fullest
In 2025,
extent of the law?
FBI arrested over 1,700 child predators, a 10% increase from 2024.
Oh, fuck.
We also located 2,700 victims of child exploitation and shut down 3.8 million dark web pedophile accounts. 3.8 million.
But I don't believe
So
you.
please, if you have information to share that needs to be investigated, contact the FBI.
Oh, yeah, please.
Today, I look forward to discussing further our shared obligation to protect the American people, uphold the rule of law, and keep this nation safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney
So
General.
inspiring.
We now proceed on the 5-minute rule. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, who do we got?
General, thank you for your extensive remarks,
I don't know who
particularly
this is yet.
on your continued investigation of those responsible over the years in the Epstein debacle.
Darrell Issa. I wonder why they made him
Obviously, you have an amazingly full docket between civil rights,
We'll know in a few
between
minutes why they
criminal,
chose Darrell
between
Issa
so-called
first.
white-collar crime, and doing so, as the chairman said, at a time in which both you and the president are under attack, and our ICE agents and FBI and others are under attack when they try to enforce the law.
Najiri.
I personally want to
This is
apologize
why they hold
to
children in
those who
detention
would
centers. 100%, Najiri.
embolden,
Great point.
Support,
I couldn't agree with you more.
or even stand with those lawbreakers that sit on this and other daises here in Congress. My job generally is to talk about patents and trademarks as the chairman of that subcommittee. I'll forego that today.
Thanks,
because
Darrell.
One of my other jobs
Jeez.
is the creation and maintenance of Article III judges, and I work with the Chief Justice on that, and we're trying to expand the court. But currently, there are only 677 district court judges. They have very full dockets as well. But you create a tremendous amount of judges, particularly immigration judges. You do so in order to save the court that, but adjudicate, as is requirement, each of those people who
I agree with
claim
you, Piggy.
the right to be
Unbelievable
here in the
bullshit.
United States.
I'm just trying to
And
figure
that has
out. The
been
only reason
going
I'm paying
on under
attention to
Republican and
ISIS
Democratic
somewhat is I'm trying to figure out why the
administrations
hell
for
they
years.
made him go first.
What's unique about the Trump administration this time is that you and President Trump have managed to reduce the backlog of people seeking that for the first time in decades. You are getting ahead of that tremendous backlog that caused, for better or worse, the release of millions of people with little pieces of paper saying, come back later when we
They're
call
not
you,
increasing the
and
judges,
often
I don't
to
think.
no avail when you call.
What they're doing is they're allowing
So I want to
ICE
congratulate you on that, because
not
it's an accomplishment you might not
have
take credit for, and
judicial,
the other
need
side
judicial
would never
warrants
give you
to be able
credit
to
for.
break into people's houses. So it's cutting off the need
But I hope you can
for
continue
as
to
many
do that and
immigration
do more.
judges as we need
And I say
before,
so for a
because ICE has
reason.
become their
Because
own
much of
immigration
this,
judges. So I don't know what the fuck
hearing
he's
will
talking
be
about, but maybe he's
about
talking about something. I don't know.
Minneapolis and other places in which the backlog of criminal aliens, including in my home state of California, people who have hurt other people, people who have victimized their communities.
I would highly doubt there was
extensive.
a backlog of
And although the
criminal
overall number
aliens in
through
Minneapolis.
adjudication may be going on,
He must be referring to
because of places
Somalis
like my home
because
state,
Donald wants the
California,
Somalis out.
you're unable to apprehend people that my sheriffs want apprehended. They desperately want to cooperate, and they're prohibited by law. It is this committee's opinion on this side of the aisle that, in fact, you should be given the ability to demand that participation, and that the release of a known criminal not be considered to be acceptable just because a state or city has declared itself a sanctuary. I want you to opine on just one thing that I think has been misunderstood. As I said earlier, you create and maintain those judges that adjudicate these cases. You also support. You also support
the only thing
so
I can
many
think of is they chose
that, in
ISA.
fact,
He chose,
have to
you know,
make
as
decisions
just a
as
distraction
judges.
to talk about nothing.
Knowing that this
But let's
limitation
keep watching. Maybe
of
there'll
so
be something
few
I haven't
Article
thought of
3
yet.
judges are there, please educate those who seem to miss the point that Article 1 judges, including bankruptcy judges, including immigration judges, including lots of people with the title appropriately judge, do in fact issue documents that look like, act like, and are normally accepted as warrants, as subpoenas, as demands for state officials to stand aside and allow the production of either an individual or
We know
documents.
that judges do that,
Because I
Daryl.
think
He's
people are
talking
missing
about the
point
judicial
that
warrants
these
versus
ICE
the administrative
retainers and
warrants, but it has
detainers
nothing
and
to
so
do.
on,
What he's talking
they
about has
act like
nothing to
they're
do with the
nothing,
issue
when in fact, in
with
the
funding
ordinary
DHS
course,
right now.
Madam General, you do in fact have Article 1 judges constantly putting those out, and they are respected normally.
Thank you, Congressman, for talking about all the
Yeah,
great
thank you,
judges.
Congressman.
And
For
if I
talking about
could,
this, nothing.
add one thing to that, we are always recruiting and looking for judges. So please reach out to our office for these judges who are handling all these very important matters. We've even added some JAG officers as immigration judges.
Thank you.
And so we're continuing to do that, but we're always seeking qualified lawyers as well.
Qualified
to be part of that. And
lawyers?
Thank you for highlighting
Like
that,
Lindsay Halligan?
Congressman.
Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from
What,
Washington.
what was that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Attorney General Bondi, right here. We are joined in this room by some of the thousands of survivors from Jeffrey Epstein's horrific sex trafficking ring. They have shown such incredible courage in speaking out, in demanding accountability to bring the predators and pedophiles to justice. The Epstein Files Transparency Act required your Department of Justice to disclose the perpetrators connected with Epstein's criminal activities and to redact the information of survivors to protect their identities. Let me show you what actually happened.
Good, good. Show it to her.
First, in violation of the law, your department has shown a pattern of redacting the names of powerful predators. Here behind me is one example of an email from Epstein to a man whose name was redacted. The email reads, quote, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video." Only after members of Congress demanded that we see the unredacted files did the world learn the name of this individual, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayman, the chairman and CEO of a company that had financial ties to President Trump's business and personal ties to Trump's advisor, Steve Bannon.
Good for you, Congresswoman.
Second, the survivors were not similarly protected, also in violation of the law. Here is another email titled Epstein Victim List. We have blurred the names of the survivors for their protection, but your Department of Justice initially released this list of 32 survivors'
how was that
names
an accident?
with only one name redacted.
How was that an
along
accident?
with numerous files
An
that
oversight.
disclose not only the names, the emails, and the addresses of survivors, but also nude photographs and even the identities of Jane Does who had been protected for decades until your department released their names. Survivors are now telling us that their families are finding out for the first time that they were trafficked by Epstein. In their words, quote, "This release does not provide closure. It feels like a deliberate attempt to intimidate survivors,
you're right, Najir.
punish those
It's
who
going to
came
be
forward,
brutal,
and reinforce
as it
the
should be.
same culture of secrecy that allowed Epstein's crimes to continue for decades." To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice.
Wow.
Please know for the record that
Swallow
every
that,
single
Pamela
survivor
Joe.
has
Swallow that.
raised their hand.
How does that
Attorney
feel?
General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and
Yes.
apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Wow.
Congresswoman, you sat before, Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General
Twice.
Bondi,
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a
Attorney General,
specific question
Attorney General
that
can
I would
respond to your
like you
question.
to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done
Look,
to
I
the
agree, Lacey.
survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions. The witness gets to
Shut
answer
up,
in the way
Jim.
they want to
Just
answer.
shut the fuck up.
Attorney General can
That's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she
It
doesn't
is
like the
my
answer.
time.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked
didn't
a
she ask
question.
Merrick Garland this?
I am
twice
reclaiming
when
my
he sat in my
time, and
chair?
when I
will
reclaim my
continue to
time,
answer.
it is
Mr. Chairman, the
my
gentlelady's
I'm
reclaimed
I'm
her
not going
time.
to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're
You already
gonna
in the- you
answer
are
this
the
question,
gutter,
so let me
Pamela
just
Joe.
say
Chairman, I'll
this.
direct it to
What a
you.
massive
No, I'm
cover-up.
answering a question.
Chairman, will you restore
Chairman.
her time? The
I'm
witness is
not going to get
interrupting.
in the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing
and
theatrics.
let me have my time.
The gentlelady from Washington controls the time. The gentlelady has 17 seconds. You can proceed with your final
Oh,
sentence.
Jordan, you're
What
right.
a massive cover-up this has been and continues to be. Donald Trump made the release of the Epstein files the center of his political campaign because he thought it would benefit him. Then you got into office, Attorney General, claimed to have a client list, only
Regular
to
order.
then say that there was no list. Your deputy,
The
Todd
time
Blanche,
of the-
met alone
time of the
with
gentlelady
Ghislaine
has-
Maxwell
the time of the
and
gentlelady has
transferred her
expired.
to a minimum security prison. And now you continue
The
the
time of the
cover-up. And
gentlelady
I
has
wish
expired.
that you would turn around to the survivors
She
who
is
are
the lowest of the
standing
low.
right
Thank you.
behind you and on a human level
Chairman,
apologize
Chair now
to them
recognizes the chair.
on what you have done.
Time of the
I
gentlelady
yield
expired.
back.
The gentlelady, you have no time to yield back. We
Theatrics.
appreciate that. We appreciate the thought.
Good. Democrats
the,
come out swinging as they should.
And I would argue the central issue in the last election, the presidential election, was securing the border. The gentleman from Arizona
You're
who
wrong,
knows something about
Jim.
securing
That
the
was an
border
issue,
is
but that wasn't
up
the central
for 5
issue.
minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you,
the
Attorney
only
General Bondi,
issue.
for being here today. In 2022, Lafarge,
This is Andy Biggs,
which
our
is a French
white
cement
nationalist,
company, pled
our
guilty
oldest
in U.S.
white
federal court to
nationalist member of
participating in a
Congress.
criminal conspiracy with ISIS. That conspiracy contributed to the deaths of U.S. service members fighting in Syria during Operation Inherent Resolve. As part of the plea agreement, Lafarge was required to pay more than $775 million to DOJ's Asset Forfeiture Fund. In February 2025, my colleagues and I sent you a letter urging the department to review the petitions for remission submitted by the families of those fallen service members, including several of my constituents. The previous administration ignored these victims and our requests and left their petitions unresolved. My question for you on this particular issue is if you're willing to work to ensure those families that their petitions will be reviewed and brought to a resolution.
Congressman, we are aware of that, and we're committed to doing everything we can to support the victims and work with you. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, appreciate your answer. And now let's go to something that is also pressing that I've been working on for years, and this is the FISA Section 702.
Wow, they're really
Arctic Frost.
they're just going to go like
January 2025.
they're just going to this is what they're going to do. They're just going to talk about
Senator Lee that quote anytime an American citizen's
Right,
private
I mean,
communications are intercepted or stored,
what a moment
whether
this is
through
going to be.
incidental
This is the
collection or
FISA court
otherwise,
stuff from
those communications should not be searched without some showing of probable cause. Close quote. You still hold that view today, I assume.
Yes.
Nothing to see here. Just
During the most recent FISA reauthorization,
We'll talk
I
about
offered
normal
an amendment to
things.
establish a clear warrant requirement for searches of Americans' data while preserving every publicly
talk about
cited
FISA
operational
shit from
exception,
2023
including
that we
emergencies,
didn't like what Biden
defensive
did.
queries, cybersecurity threats. And my intent was to ensure the Department of Justice could continue to keep Americans safe while also ending warrantless searches of U.S. persons' data. Are there any additional circumstances or exceptions that you believe must be included to ensure DOJ can continue to operate effectively while still protecting American citizens' data and privacy?
Yeah, Congressman, we are committed to working with Congress to uncover weaponization and other misconduct by Jack Smith, by others, Arctic Frost, everything that happened under the
see how
past
she's performing
administration.
every time she speaks, and she's such a bad actress.
We are committed to working with you on that, and we are working.
Oh, Tina, that's exactly it. But it's
Chairman Jordan,
remember
with the House Intel,
remember that hang on, let me
with
shut her
all
up
of
for a
our
second.
my fellow cabinet members.
You know, these hearings are no longer about the hearings. I mean, it's just, you know, we watch it, but people aren't watching it. It's about the clips and the reporting afterward, right? So, so when you see the contrasting clips on social media afterwards of, you know, Andy Biggs talking about, you know, FISA applications and Congresswoman Jayapal, you know, asking her to apologize to the victims, right? I mean, the narrative is, I don't even know that Fox News, depending on how this goes, I don't even know that Fox News will be able to mute the juxtaposition of the two different narratives. And sorry, still a little tickle in my throat. You know, and the juxtaposition of the two stories that each side is telling.
Of acting as foreign agents were also caught up in that. Can you answer that question and say whether queries did cover all those groups I just identified?
It is a very active pending investigation within my office. However, I believe many members of Congress have stated that their
Hey,
phones
Kimmy, how are you?
Were part of Arctic Frost. We are well aware of that, and we are taking this very seriously.
I would bet you,
and this is a very active investigation.
if they did polling on Arctic
and I would
Frost,
keep going and say,
I would bet
if
some
any
of you don't
member
even know what
of
Arctic
the Democrat
Frost
Party,
is.
if any of them, if that had happened to them,
I would bet you even if they polled Republicans, who are still 82% behind the village idiot Donald Trump, none of them would know what the fuck Arctic Frost is. Just saying.
because this should be a bipartisan issue.
Well, I hope it is a bipartisan issue. You know, I'll just leave with these last couple of questions, which I'm sure fall into the same investigation privilege. But that's this. How many such queries were actually conducted overall? This is outside Arctic Frost in the prior year by the FBI or other intelligence community. And particularly, we really need to know, what were the legal standards applied? Did they use probable cause? Did they use reasonable articulable suspicion?
Sure. Jack Smith used all the above.
Suspicion and
That's
just
how
were
he got
gathering up information,
a judge to sign off
that's beyond
on
the
his
investigation
ability
regarding Arctic Frost.
to receive the
I don't expect you to have that information today, but
the
if
phone
you can,
records,
help
the calls that
get
were
that
made
information
by the
so we
village
can
idiot
understand
Donald Trump,
the extensive nature of this
two different
continued
Republican members of
misuse
the Senate and the
702,
House
it would be very
during
particularly
January
helpful.
6th.
And it was extensive.
Absolutely
Yes,
probable
Congressman.
cause
Thank you.
was
Time of the gentleman has
reason a
expired.
judge agreed to do
You
it.
see, Mr. Chairman,
And that is the gentlelady from Texas.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record. El Paso airspace reopened after
Jasmine
FAA
Crockett.
quickly rescinds 10-day flights restriction. This was published by the Texas Tribune on February 11th, 2026, and it says it was because of an impasse with the DOD over the use of unmanned
objection, without
military
objection.
aircraft
Without
and not
objection.
triggered by Mexican cartel drones.
Without objection.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I didn't hear back about the second round of questions. I assume that's not happening. I just want to be able to assure the members, certainly on my side, if not both sides.
That's not a point of order.
No, that every member will get 5 minutes with the witness. Will there be 5 minutes for each?
Yeah, you get 5 minutes. Yeah.
With the witness. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. Okay. And are you up next? Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Mr. Chairman,
Bondi will have consequences.
I want to begin by acknowledging the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific abuse who are in the room with us today. I want to thank all of you.
I hope Nadler does
for your
well.
bravery in
I
speaking out.
haven't been very
I want
impressed
to
with
say
him
that
lately,
you
but let's
and
see
the
how
other
he does.
survivors of these heinous crimes deserve better from this Department of Justice. In particular, it is shocking that the department did not redact the names of Epstein's victims, but it did redact the names of their abusers. I don't know whether this was done out of incompetence or whether it was deliberate and malicious, but either way, it is completely unacceptable. Even more troubling, the DOJ has failed to bring any of these perpetrators to justice. Instead, it has engaged in a relentless pursuit of Donald Trump's perceived enemies. I want to focus on just one example. The Attorney General of my home state of New York, Tish James. This DOJ has been hell-bent on securing an indictment against Ms. James for something, anything, simply because she held Donald Trump's companies accountable for years of financial fraud. And indeed, the department manufactured an investigation against her for alleged, quote, mortgage fraud. But the U.S. attorney leading the investigation, Eric Siebert, a Trump appointee, refused to bring charges against Ms. James because there was simply no evidence.
This is, for
Unfortunately,
whatever it's
the
worth. I mean, I
prosecutor
haven't
who
been
refuses
impressed with
to
Nadler
do
for
Trump's
some
bidding
time now,
has no place in this DOJ.
and I don't think
So
this is
Mr.
not
Siebert
an
was
effective
forced
line
out.
of. I mean,
Trump
the
could not
accusations
contain
are
his
right,
fury.
but it's not what we
Fury
need
that
to
he
be hearing right
expressed to
now.
you in a social media post addressed to you by name. I'm sure you've seen it. Quote, I fired him and there is a great case, he wrote to you about Mr. Siebert. Then we moved down. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and
I
credibility.
guess it's okay.
They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. And obviously, you followed that order. Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former defense lawyer who had never prosecuted a case in her life, was installed to replace Mr. Siebert, and it was clear that part of her mandate was to go after Ms. James. Halligan immediately sought an indictment, which a court dismissed because Halligan was illegally put into the role. But your department was undeterred, and not once, but twice, it tried to indict Attorney General James in separate courts. Both grand juries rejected you and refused to
I
indict
agree with
her.
you, Gamer Vet Dad.
It is practically unheard of for a grand jury to refuse an
I agree. It would have been
indictment.
better.
In 2016, it happened in just 6 cases out of over 150,000 offenses. And you had it happen twice in the same week in 2 different courts. That must have been humiliating. And now there are reports that you are continuing to investigate her. The amount of resources that have gone into targeting Attorney General James, months of investigations, multiple failed indictments, is astounding. Since your own prosecutors told you that there is not enough evidence to support a conviction, it's clear that you were going after her simply because
He's right, but
she
he's
held
not.
President Trump accountable,
He's
and he
not
wants to punish her.
pushing her against the wall.
And
He's
she
not
is
asking
just
her any
one
questions.
name on a long list of Trump political enemies.
He's right
the DOJ
about
is
everything he's
reportedly
saying.
targeting.
I want to see
Jerome
them
Powell and Lisa
hammer
Cook
her
at
with
the
the
Federal
Epstein
Reserve,
stuff relentlessly.
James Comey, numerous Democratic members of Congress, John Brennan, Jack Smith, Democratic officials in Minnesota, Chris Krebs,
I
Miles
feel like he's
Taylors,
just
and more.
squandering his 5 minutes.
Those are just the ones we know about. In contrast to
Yeah,
these
he's being way
politically
too kind,
motivated
Kimmy. There's no time
investigations,
for this.
grasping at something they can charge their enemies with.
Considering how
We now have
egregious
concrete
what
evidence
they're
of
doing
disgusting
is,
criminality revealed in the Epstein files. So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted?
Okay.
How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
Wrong question, but let's see what she says.
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question.
She's
Wait,
so
I wanna
bad. She
answer the
can't
question.
even.
You
She
can
can't even
ask
deal
the
with like a
question the way I asked
softball.
you. How
Chairman
many have you
Jordan, I'm
indicted?
not going to get in the gutter with these people,
How many
but
have
I'm
you-
going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time
I
belongs.
think it's very
Reclaiming
interesting.
my time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting.
time.
You can
when
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him
Mr.
twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and
And
stop stop the clock and restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you ask a question, the witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
Reclaiming my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I am
Mr.
going
Nadler, please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me
Yeah, oh, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not a
said that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go
All
right
right.
ahead.
My time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None
has
of the perpetrators have
expired.
been brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
have been
of the
dedicated to
gentleman has
pursuing Trump's
expired,
enemies.
and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
There was
no longer
Nadler,
works
question
with
in
Jerry,
there.
shut the fuck up.
It works
Order
with Donald
response.
Trump.
Honestly, like,
I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
you know,
May I answer?
I think our next questioner, Madam Attorney General, is going to give you time to respond to
Thank you, Chairman.
all kinds of things. So we will turn to the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
Ms. Bondi, you go right ahead. I'm over here. The time is yours.
Thank you. First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice. And you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016.
He did.
Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents, over 3 million, and Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents. He is the most transparent president in the nation's history, and none of them.
she is
none
nuts,
of
man.
them
Well,
asked
I guess the
Merrick
upside
Garland
is she's
over the last
kind of like
4
getting it all
years
out. I mean, this is what she's
one
got.
Word
So she's
about
getting it all out
Jeffrey
now.
Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The
She
S&P
is
at almost 7,000.
such a
And
dunce.
the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan.
They should just let her
Mr.
talk.
Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
She could do a better
Mr. Jordan, am I
job.
going to get an extra
You know,
45
like,
seconds
backing
added to my
herself in a
time?
corner than
Committee will be in order. The time belongs
You know,
to
just
the
let her talk.
gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year. National median rents have fallen to a 4-year low thanks to Donald Trump. That's why they want to focus on Epstein and our most transparent president in the nation's history. The murder rate, as I said, has plummeted to a 125-year low thanks to Donald Trump. For an Unprecedented. 9
Oh my God,
straight
this is an idiot.
months. There were 0 illegal border crossings at
Yes,
the southern
Kimmy.
border.
But the thing is, the reason that this is so
That's what we should be focused on. All the great
this
work
is so
that this
effective
president
for
has done
us
and will continue
is because
to
everybody
do to keep
knows
America
that she's a
safe
liar.
and
Everybody
to
knows
make
this is all bullshit.
Americans
Everybody knows
safe.
this has nothing to do with it. And
Thank
everybody
you,
watching
Attorney
this is
General
focused
Bondi.
on
I
the
agree
Epstein
with
files.
you totally. I think you've done a fine job. I think that Democrats, in fact, should be apologizing to the Epstein victims for doing nothing during the 4 years that they were running the government. We did not hear about this, and it took you and President Trump to finally provide transparency and give answers to the American people, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you also for standing up for truth today and for fighting back against the theatrics and the time waste that you will endure over the next hour or two.
So it's
I
going
want
to be so
apologize on
difficult
behalf
for
of my
Pam
colleagues on the left.
for her to endure it.
They're not all that bad, but they've got to put on a show. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that. And I would like to yield the last, I'd say 40, and 40 is 80 seconds. The clock says 40, but I've got 80 seconds since I was so rudely interrupted. And I'll give all 80 seconds to Chairman Jordan.
And I would just yield to the Attorney General if she has anything to add.
Of course, she has to have stuff to add because she's.
I'm fine to continue. Thank you,
All
Chairman.
right, the chair now recognizes, the gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note that Mr. Nadler's question has not yet been answered, but I want to start by asking that out of respect for the American public and the Epstein survivors, some of whom, of course, are here today, that we can have a transparent conversation and
Just get to the fucking
the public
question.
the answers they deserve.
Don't
I want
waste
to
time.
briefly direct your attention to 2 documents I'm hoping we will put up on the screen. In the first, an individual emails Jeffrey Epstein asking whether a woman identified as M was pro or civilian, and Epstein responds that she was a civilian, Russian, and fun. In the second email, Epstein writes to Steve Tisch about a Ukrainian girl, noting that she was, quote, a little freaked out by the age difference and stating that he would try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. He then instructs Mr. Tisch to call him, adding, I don't like records of these conversations. So I'd like to ask a straightforward question that really is either a yes or no answer. Do these emails constitute credible evidence, not proof, but credible evidence warning further investigation into whether Steve Tisch was involved in Epstein's criminal conduct? Do you think yes or no?
I'm not going to play a yes-no game with you, but I will answer the question to the best of my ability. As I said, we will look and investigate any case involving any victim. I'm not familiar, there were 3 million pages, of course, with that email, but of course, we will look into anything. The documents have been released, 3 million. The redacted versions, we left them open for all of you to come view. I believe you view them. If
Shut
not,
up,
will
shut
you
up,
have
Pam.
some copies?
I'd like to.
But could I finish, please? I'm not being rude.
You're
I
done,
only have
Pamela Joe.
5
Shut the
minutes.
fuck up.
Yeah, and I only have 30 seconds based on your filibustering.
You didn't give
Time
a
to
yes or
lawsuit,
no
gentlelady from
answer.
California.
So let me just go further. Director Patel testified in this committee room that there was no credible information indicating that Epstein trafficked victims to anyone else. And glancing at the documents, that's proves that's not the case. In July, your department issued a memo stating that it had conducted an exhaustive review of the Epstein files and concluded that no additional individuals would be charged. So I did go over to the Department of Justice yesterday. I would note that 400 and all our 35 members are in the House, and there's 4 computers. So it would take many months to actually have the time. I only had a few hours. I think the transparency argument is really kind of a sham because it's not really possible.
Whoa. Did you have to wait to get a computer?
You need to shut up, Pamela Joe.
To really go in. I did, however, see a U.S. attorney information for the Southern District of New York indicating that there were additional survivors and probable co-conspirators. Other members of Congress have uncovered likely co-conspirators whose names were blocked out. Now, the Epstein File Transparency Act, which all but one member of this House voted for and the president signed, requires the department to release everything except that it needs to be redacted to protect the victims or an ongoing prosecution, which apparently there is none from the testimony we have received. I am concerned that this act has not been fully complied with.
I would have
when
liked
Director Patel
Lofgren
came
to
the
start
committee,
here
he admitted
and to hammer her
that
with
up
questions,
to 1,000 FBI agents
okay.
had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them. And it's pretty clear that what has been transmitted from the FBI continues to redact President Trump's name, even though he is mentioned, thousands of times in these files. So I think the credibility of the department in terms of complying with the act has been damaged. And I think the department's credibility has been damaged in other ways. I think we all saw the horrible video of American citizens being killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis. And I think how the department has handled these cases raises a lot of doubt about the department. State and local police in Minnesota got a court order to get access to the crime scene to be sure evidence would be properly preserved by federal agents. But they took the agents defied the court order, and in a departure from general policy, the DOJ is not collaborating with state and local law enforcement on these homicides. So I really think that is a disgraceful approach to the homicides of American citizens, and really does nothing to bring credit to your department. And Mr. Chairman, I would yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
May I answer?
Attorney General can respond.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus, this is a hearing. I find it
she's
interesting
such a
she
mess.
keeps going after Donald Trump. She doesn't say how much money she took from Reid Hoffman, did you? None. And nor did
Mr.
she
Chairman,
post
regular
anything.
order, please.
She
Regular order.
posted nothing on her X account, on her Twitter account during the Biden years.
Gentlelady.
Yet now, all of a sudden,
Just let her talk. They should just let her talk.
Order. There was no question
Shame on
on
you.
the Attorney General. She doesn't just get to
Committee will be in order.
I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Committee will be in order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Lady can state her point of order.
When a witness attacks...
Not a valid point of order. You got to state.
She hasn't completed her point of order yet. Please let her speak, Mr. Chairman. Let's have some regular order here.
Regular order is you got to state the rule. And
I am trying to make a point of order that the witness,
And what rule are you referring to?
without responding to a question, has attacked me personally. I think it's pathetic that she can't answer the questions and
First
instead
time
is
that
attacking
is not even close
members
to a
of the
point of
committee.
order. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
In August of last year,
So it seems like we'll listen to this idiot from Wisconsin in a second, but I think I think Bondi she's so bad at this and she's so dumb that it hasn't been strong questioning yet since Jamie Raskin started, right? But since his opening statement. But at the same time, if Bondi just would have kept her mouth shut and moved on to the next, to the schmuck from Wisconsin. But she has to perform for the idiot, right? So she had to say, I can't believe he's attacking Donald. She's attacking Donald. And so what she did is she turned Lofgren's kind of, let me just try to throw everything at her and not prosecute her, but just sort of make statements about her, her awful behavior, which was all true and appropriate, but it wouldn't have fallen on anything. It didn't have any political, it didn't have any political punch to it. But because she can't control herself and she's always trying to impress the idiot, she had to respond. And she kind of saved Lofgren's line of questioning and just made herself look dumber. And that's why I kind of hope she just keeps talking until, I don't know who else is on the committee right now, but until somebody prosecutorial really gets her and then kind of digs down for the clips that we're going to see all over social media. But let's see what Tom Tiffany, whoever the fuck he is, has to babble on about.
from this little town in northern Wisconsin.
Congressman, you do a great job representing your district. And yes, we would more than welcome working with you, and we are familiar with that investigation.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add, we're highlighting these miscarriages of justice in the previous administration. This is just another one of those small examples, no different than the Catholic Diocese in Richmond and many others that you have retold so many times. But here's another instance of what they did to a small town and nearly bankrupted them as a result of it. Fortunately, there was a federal judge that saw through it and has fixed it. I want to move on to fraud enforcement. You have established a National Fraud Enforcement Division. Is that correct, Madam Attorney General?
Yes, Congressman.
Has this new division begun any investigations and getting after those individuals that have committed the rampant fraud we've seen, like in Minnesota?
Well, it's not only rampant in Minnesota, it's rampant throughout this country.
All the Democrats
much of it
are
is in
stealing.
California, as you know.
They're
and
all
in other
welfare
places.
babies, and they're all
Yes, we are
stealing money
working
from
on it,
all the brown and black
actively.
people around the
Our
country.
criminal fraud division has
Apparently.
been working on it. We are expanding that. It was the Vice President's idea to come up with this amazing separate fraud division.
Brilliant.
Which we are
He is a
establishing
genius.
and going nonstop, not only to expose the fraud in Minnesota, but
Yeah.
around the country. It's
That's pretty funny, Jordan.
taxpayer dollars that have been stolen from the American people, and we are committed to recovering that money and holding those people accountable.
Mr. Chairman, I would remind everyone here, why did this happen in Minneapolis? Why did federal law enforcement have to go to Minneapolis? Because of industrial scale fraud. It was an assistant United States attorney that said, this is industrial scale fraud that's going on in Minnesota at this point. I sent a letter to our governor in Wisconsin. We're right across the border there. My district is only 20 miles from the city of Minneapolis.
I know, and
I
those
asked
Somalis
him
might
to
come and
open
get
the
you.
books for a federal audit on food stamps and Medicaid. Don't you think it would be a good idea
Somalis
for
that are
every
all
governor
committing
to do
fraud
that at
might
this
come
point?
and get you, Tom.
It protects the citizens, and I can't understand why that's not happening. And yes, I do think that's a great idea. It's happening around this country. And when our new division with Colin McDonald is established, it's established. When Colin is confirmed, he's amazing. I think you've met with him, you said, Chairman. When that is established, we're going to work on both sides of the aisle. That's what we want to do, to stop fraud in every city, in every state in this country.
Start with the White House.
To fight for the American
Start with the
So
White
you would
House.
encourage
Madam
every
Attorney General.
governor across the United States, after what we have seen in Minnesota, what we almost certainly know is happening in other states, you mentioned California, you would agree that every governor should avail themselves of federal resources to make sure that this industrial scale fraud is rooted out to protect the taxpayers of the United States. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to thank you for holding this hearing and holding it in a proper fashion as you have. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of the victims of the Epstein case who've come here to attend this hearing, for doing it and for being brave and trying to move this justice forward. I apologize, I can't do it, but the Attorney General not recognizing you, that's embarrassing. I am from Memphis, General BONDI, and Memphis does have the task force there. The Memphis Safe Task Force has been operating in Memphis for several months, and we do have a Democratic Mayor, Paul Young, and he's not against the task force, but he is against ICE being in Memphis, and he's not in favor of the National Guard being in Memphis. And I concur with him on those positions. I think the DEA being there, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, the FBI, who have been in Memphis in other ways, having more people there is good for Memphis. Crime has gone down in Memphis, but it went down 25% before the task force got there under the direction of Mayor Young and Director Davis, Chief Davis. It's gone down about 15% more since then, and that's good. But I would like to comment that Mexico City's homicide rate has gone down 40%.
Who cares?
At the same
Just
time when
get to the
Memphis has
fucking
only
point.
gone down 25%. And that's
Who
not
cares? Who
necessarily
cares? Who
because
cares?
of
Who cares?
task
Who cares?
force,
Who
although
cares?
the mayor
1,000
says he
times.
thinks
Who
it's
gives a
helped.
shit? Shut the fuck
So
up.
I thank you for that. You would agree, I presume, that violent crime in communities across our country is critically important, and that's why the task force is there. Is that not true?
Yes, and if I can just add to that, I think the surge, the FBI, our FBI under the leadership of Director Patel came in and did a surge in Memphis.
Earlier.
Prior to the task force.
Yeah,
and thank you for saying that about Mayor Young. He's been great to work with, and thank you.
He's a good guy.
He's a very good guy.
One
Yeah, this
problem
is
I've got with
not going
where we
anywhere.
are in priorities here. A recent Department of Justice National Institute of Justice report based on arrest records in Texas and in California found that undocumented immigrants were less than half as likely as U.S.-born Americans to be arrested for homicide. And this pattern holds for assault, sexual assault, robbery, burglary, theft, and arson. Half as likely to be arrested for drug offenses. So I ask you, and I've written to you about this, there are TV ads that run that say to local law enforcement, specifically, says, are you tired of having your hands handcuffed because you can't do the things you wanted to do when you joined? And if you want to do something different, join ICE, and you'll get a $50,000 bonus, and we'll pay off your debts, student debts, and we'll help you with pensions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they're encouraging local law enforcement to leave local law enforcement and go to work for ICE. We need people working in the front lines and local law enforcement to protect our citizens from the worst of the worst. The worst of the worst are not the immigrants.
You're right, Gamer, but I mean, this is
records
pathetic.
show are
I
native-born
can't fucking
Americans,
take it.
and they are committing crimes that hurt our citizens
Where's
and
Jasmine
our cities.
Crockett?
And you're working
Let's
against
just-
it, and thank you for that. But by trying to get
Shut the
our
fuck
local
up.
law enforcement, where we have an undercount of officers in Memphis, to leave Memphis and go to work for ICE to deport people
Shut
is
up.
a wrong priority.
I mean,
Why are
we just don't
trying
have
to get
time for
people,
this.
Policemen who are working on the front lines to leave the front lines, take the $50,000 and go to work for ICE.
I'm just seeing who the other
instead of
Democrats
working
are on
to
the
fight
committee.
The worst of the worst.
Because
Congressman, I have not yet seen that commercial, that ad. I would argue
so
that
we've
we
got
need strong
shut up.
people
I
in both
don't even wanna-
local law.
I don't even care. So let's look at these. The House Judiciary Committee. You've got Nadler already spoke. Eric Swalwell, Ted Lieu. These are the people we heard from. Jayapal. I think I'm missing. Some member names. Let me just. Hang on. This really so far has been. I'm just gonna say it's been pathetic. You've got strong members on this committee, and they should be doing better. Let me see what they're sparring over. If it's anything that matters.
All of us working together, and nearly 1,000 illegal guns were seized as a
I would
result
like to
of us
reclaim my
working
time.
together.
And I don't disagree with some of the things you said, but there are questions about those children, but it's a different thing. The fact is, ICE is running rampant, and you are not investigating them. When they killed Mr. Prete, and Miss Good, that was an execution, and you did not investigate it. And you tried to investigate Miss Good's widow, and you tried to investigate Mr. Prete. They were executed, like Kristi Noem executed her dog. And that was wrong. And you should investigate those people, and you should investigate anybody that uses a weapon, in federal official or not, for civil rights violations. I yield back the balance.
Gentleman yields back his time. Madam Attorney General, anytime you need a break, just let us know. If not, we'll just keep going. The chair is now recognized for 5 minutes. Madam Attorney General, you're not allowed to exercise your constitutional rights in a way that tramples on someone else's, are you?
No.
No, you can't do that. I mean, you have a right to petition the government under the First Amendment. That doesn't mean you can come into this room and start screaming at Mr. Raskin or me or anybody else and disrupt a congressional hearing. You have a right to protest on the street, but that doesn't give you a right to go into the Capitol and disrupt Congress. Something these guys talk about every day. You can't do that. So when Don Lemon said that he was exercising his First Amendment free press rights, freedom of the press rights, that's not really accurate because he was trampling on other individuals' rights. Is that true?
It's not true.
Chairman, we will always protect our churches and the freedom of religion. And yes, that's accurate.
First right mentioned under the First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom to practice your faith the way you think the good Lord wants you to, right?
That's right, under the federal government.
And isn't it true that Mr. Lemon met at a shopping center with the rioters who entered City's church in St. Paul, met with them prior to marching to the church?
He didn't meet with them. He interviewed them.
He did meet, and this is a pending case right now, so I will only stick to what is in the four corners of the unsealed indictment, if I could, Chairman.
Yeah, I'm
There's
focused on-
a lot more that will come out. But under the four corners of the indictment, yes, he did. They had an operation called Operation Pull-Up. They said they were gearing for a resistance. They met in a parking lot and they caravanned to a church on a Sunday morning when people were worshiping together.
And Mr. Lemon said that he live streamed before entering the church with the rioters. Didn't he say we're going to head to the operation? Didn't he say this on? He said this on camera. Is that right?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah.
And more.
That he was in Minnesota and that, as you said, they were gearing up for an operation. So you can't do that. This is why this is, I think, so important that this guy be held accountable, and I think why you guys have charged
you
him,
can do that
indicted him
as a journalist,
moving to
and
the second
that's
subject
exactly
here.
what he did.
Will John Brennan be indicted? Mr. Brennan lied to the committee, which you're not supposed to do, last Congress, and we deposed him. He definitely, 18 U.S.C. 1001, we're all familiar with it. He lied to the committee, and the committee, the Congress, and I think the country would like to know if, in fact, he's going to be indicted for lying. And here's why it's so important. I'll give you a chance to respond. Here's why it's so important. It wasn't just that he lied to us, it's what he lied to us about. He lied to us about when all this weaponization against the President of the United States started. He lied to us about the dossier, and specifically what role the dossier played in the
He's talking about the
intelligence
Steele
community
dossier,
assessment.
I think.
Because we know back when President Trump was first elected, first term,
When,
this is when it all started, which led to the
when
Mueller,
Mueller,
and to the
we had
impeachment,
the
and
Mueller
to the Jack
report,
Smith,
you
and
had
all the
Trump
stuff that's happened in the last
collaborating,
decade. But it began here,
you know,
and he
Trump
lied to
collaborating
Congress
with the
about
Russians,
the
but
role
it
he
didn't
played.
lead to
I
anything
just
that
want to
Mueller
read
thought he could
a couple of
prosecute,
things
but he
said
felt
during that
that
deposition
Congress should take
before I
care
give
of
you a
it and
chance
should
to
impeach him.
respond. Mr. Brennan, when asked the question, said the CIA was not involved at all with the dossier. He said it was their purview, FBI's purview, and not ours. He also said the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment. Well, that's interesting because declassified information that was declassified this past summer by the CIA says something entirely different. It says, Brennan, I want to put this one up if we have it. It says, Brennan ultimately formalized his position in writing, stating that, quote, this is released by the CIA Director Ratcliffe. My bottom line is that what I believe that information warrants inclusion in the report. He was further asked by an CIA official. The same officer said when he approached the director and asked that the director refused to remove it after being explained this wasn't good. With the dossier's many flaws, he said.
So, you know, obviously what Jim Jordan has been instructed to do, right? Which there was plenty of reporting on this well before the actual hearing, but they were instructed to talk about anything other than the Epstein files, right? So, who cares about her answers? So what Jordan was, instructed to do, what he was ordered to do by the village idiot Donald Trump and the Trump administration, I'm sure this conversation that he's having right now with Bondi about Brennan, like who the fuck cares, right? But I'm sure this is well planned. I'm sure this was well coordinated. I'm sure it's somewhat improvised, but potentially rehearsed. But again, it's to sort of distract away during the hearing, specifically from anything Epstein related. Hang on, let me just see who's speaking next.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for a point of order.
If we want to know whether Mr. Brennan will be indicted, you should just ask the president.
Not a point of order, but
That's pretty good. Sorry, we missed that. It was Goldman.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Bondi, it's been reported that there were at one point 1,000 personnel assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Were those reports accurate?
I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents
how
that
many
have
people were
been released.
assigned?
If I could finish, I'm going to read you the stats.
I just simply asked whether or not it was true that it was 1,000 folks who were assigned that task. Were those reports accurate?
There are more than 500 attorneys and reviewers. I cannot give you an exact number.
And I wanted to ask you about that also, because this is a different question that you're getting to now. There were 500 DOJ lawyers and others assigned the task of redacting the appropriate information, including identities of the Epstein victim survivors from the Epstein files prior to their release. 500, is that correct?
If I could have finished my answer, there were more than 500 attorneys and reviewers who assisted with the. That answers
my question, ma'am, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
From
General
multiple
Bondi, would you
You'll be in
agree?
order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Georgia.
General Bondi, would you agree that your 8 years of service as the state of Florida's Attorney General, the third largest state in the nation, served as an excellent preparation for your current role as Attorney General for the United States of America?
Not only that, I was a career prosecutor for 18
years. And for
18 years.
And for 18 years,
He asks a
you
question and doesn't want an answer. This is theatrics.
Well, no, for 18 years, you prosecuted serious felony cases.
He's handling it pretty well.
Including drug cases, correct?
Oh, I prosecuted homicides. I prosecuted capital cases.
Okay,
I
keep going.
prosecuted domestic violence cases.
Keep going, just interrupt her.
I prosecuted multiple cases, and that's why I feel for all of these victims. And did you ask Merrick Garland this when you were sitting before him, sir?
You also prosecuted sexual assault cases and child sex trafficking cases, correct?
I answered that question earlier. I've prosecuted multiple cases.
Bottom line, you're an experienced and seasoned.
For 18 years.
Mr. Chairman, will you remind her of the rules? The time belongs to the member of the committee.
You are a seasoned and experienced prosecutor, correct?
I think we've established that.
Yes or no?
Does he want an answer or not?
He wants to say
I want a yes or no answer.
I think he wants to say
I want a yes or no answer, but I'll live with what you have already said. Let me ask you this question.
Clearly,
in the prosecution of sexual assault cases, you are acutely aware of how important it is to protect the identity of victims of sexual assault, correct?
I have addressed this multiple times. I think others were cutting me off when I was trying to.
Well, I just simply asked, are you aware of the fact that it's vitally important to protect the identity of sexual assault victims as you prosecute the people they accuse of assaulting them? Isn't that correct?
Excuse me. As we have said multiple times,
protection of the identity
of all victims
of the victims
are
is
protected.
so very
Who are
important.
protected under? Do you want me to answer or do you want to interrupt?
Well, because you're not answering the question. You do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here, and I just want you to answer my questions.
What does Jekyll and Hyde mean? Can you explain that?
Well, it means you're nice to the Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats. But let me ask you this, ma'am. We have the Epstein victim survivors here today. Representative Jayapal asked a simple question. If you would be so kind and honorable as to turn around and face them and apologize to them for outing them. I mean, how many lives have been derailed because your department was either sloppy and incompetent or willfully trying to intimidate and punish these ladies for coming forward?
The time of the gentleman has expired.
She is
The
such an
gentleman yields
imbecile.
back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
Oh, dear God. I hope... let me just see who's speaking. Oh, shoot. I think we got to freeze up on the C-SPAN feed. That's okay. I think Hank did a little better than some of the other Democrats. I think you're strongest, but I think maybe he kind of softened her up a little bit. A little bit. Let's just see if Fitzgerald's talking about anything important.
Illegal aliens wreak havoc on the American communities. I have a short video I just wanted to play.
Of immigrants. We're also a nation of laws.
Well,
Undocumented workers
they got to play the
broke
video
our
of the
immigration
black
laws.
guy, right?
And I believe that they must be held accountable.
All right. So irrespective of this, so I think we still have. I mean, I'm not happy with this hearing so far. I honestly, with the exception of a little bit of what we just saw, and with Congressman Johnson just then, he sort of kind of began the process of asking her questions without and just exposing the fact that she's an idiot and incapable of, beside the fact she's angry and she's mad and she's deflecting and twisting things, and when you try to prosecute her, she says things that are unimportant and everything else. He exposed a little bit more of that and, called her incompetent and everything else, which, she can't handle that. And I think that's just what they need. I think what they need to be doing is just hitting her over and over again. You're incompetent. You're an idiot. You're stupid. You're also a criminal. You're corrupt. These are the reasons why. What do you have to say about that? That's really all they need to do. But I think Congresswoman Jayapal, to a lesser extent, Congressman Johnson, and I think Jamie Raskin's opening statement have been the only sort of effective efforts at that. I mean, the fighting back and forth. I think with Zoe Lofgren, when Lofgren kind of went at her as little as she did, it was useless. But at the same time, because Bondi is such a dunce and she's such a psychopath, she just made, she couldn't control herself and she had to defend the village idiot immediately afterwards. I think that will be a clip. I think, you'll see later on, you'll see her, her clip when they talk about the village idiot and Jeffrey Epstein, you'll see her clip, you'll see clips on social media of her sort of trying to defend his stupidity. But overall, other than that, the Democrat performance has been quite weak so far. But I think I'm just looking at just to kind of give you some perspective on who's coming up. I don't know how much more of it I'll be able to cover because we have our daily briefing coming up soon. But you've got Eric Swalwell coming up. You've got Ted Lieu. You're going to get strong. I think you're going to get very, very strong questioning from them. On the Republican side, you got Thomas Massie, who is going to hammer the shit out of her. I think you're going to get some very, very strong pushback from him. You got Joe Neguse, again, a very, very strong Democrat. Mary Scanlon, again, you're going to get. I think maybe what they wanted to do is maybe get some of these more seasoned folks that have been there for a while but aren't what they used to be. Maybe get them out of the way. Maybe that was the strategy here. You got Lucy Macbeth. I think she's from Georgia. She's going to be a very strong questioner. So I think maybe we're saving the best for last. I don't know who Deborah Ross is, Becca Baint, Jesus Garcia. I'm not familiar with these. You've got Jared Moskowitz. He's going to absolutely hammer and destroy her. Sydney Kellinger Dove. Again, I don't know who she is. So I can't speak about Sydney. And of course, you've got Daniel Goldman, who spoke up a little while ago, and you're going to see some very aggressive. She's going up against and Jasmine Crockett. Right. So she's going to have to go up against sort of the competent folks, the really aggressive folks. And I guess maybe they wanted the other ones to kind of, Tina, you're talking about Jasmine Crockett, Daniel Goldman, Moskowitz, Jared Moskowitz, Lucy Macbeth, Joe Neguse, Mary Scanlon, Ted Lieu, Eric Swalwell. It's just going to be a bloodbath, a rhetorical bloodbath when they do what it is that they're going to do. And I guess maybe the idea, we're watching it, we're looking for the entertainment. I'm certainly looking for that, but it's early in the hearing. And I think you're going to get the real clips that are going to matter when these folks, have their opportunity to ask questions. And I'm almost tempted to skip the daily brief. Let me see if she...
Young lady can respond.
As I stated earlier, Congressman, anyone's...
the daily brief with Chorus. I'm semi tempted to skip it because I really don't want to. Uh, I really don't want to miss. Oh wait, hang on. Who's do we have?
Do that now. The DOJ is not going to go do that and ask the judge for an NDO.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good. That in and of itself tells you why how wrong it was. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Great, thank you. Madam Attorney General, you acknowledged earlier to Mr. Johnson that President Trump was mentioned and the release countless times, you said, in the Epstein files. I just want to play a video, though, for you that I think speaks to the frustration that many of these victims have. Of times Trump's name appears in the files, so it could at least be 1,000 times. Is that right?
The number is a total misleading factor. We have not released anyone's name in the Epstein files that has not been credible.
Director, could it at
we have
least be 1,000
released
times?
every piece of legally permissible information.
Okay,
you can
so
characterize the numbers however you want it.
Claiming my time, Director. It sounds like if you don't know the number, it could at least be 1,000 times.
It's not. It's not.
Is it at least 500 times?
No.
Is it at least 100 times?
No.
Then what's the number?
I don't know the number.
I understand why the victims are frustrated, and the Attorney General acknowledged what Mr. Patel would not acknowledge, that it was way more than 1,000 times. But I want to move, Madam Attorney General, to weaponization of government. And yesterday it was reported that 6 members of Congress had indictments sought against him, and they were not returned by a grand jury. My colleagues have spoken about their frustration of being in subpoenas and having cell phone records combed through. Well, in 2017 and 2018, Adam Schiff and I had our cell phone records and email records combed through, not by you, but a different Department of Justice under the President. It was in retaliation for our role in the Russia interference campaign. An Inspector General report would find this improper and that the predicate for it was absurd. In 2020, after sitting on 2 committees that were a part of the President's first impeachment, an FBI agent leaked my cooperation in a national security case where my campaign was targeted. The President's FBI senior leadership authorized 2 statements to the press that said I was never suspected of wrongdoing and only helped the investigation. But that didn't stop the death threats or my GOP colleagues from referring me to an ethics investigation where Kevin McCarthy's chairman on the ethics committee would find the same thing as the FBI. Our current FBI director would then write a book called Government Gangsters and identify a long list of enemies. About a quarter of them have been either investigated or indicted. He listed me at the very top along with Adam Schiff, and during that same testimony refused to recuse himself when asked if he would recuse if any case came across his desk involving me or people on that list. Since that testimony, his department has put me under investigation with Senator Schiff for the nonsense mortgage fraud cases that we've seen. I get it. This is what the President does. I've priced it in. We have a bingo card at home that my kids have made of what will come next. I expected that the President would come after his enemies. But what I want to talk to you next is serious, and I did not expect this would happen, and I'd like your help on it. The President has inspired death threats against me and many sitting up here with me. In June 2025, an individual left 11 voicemails at my district office. On the voicemails, they said, "Get the message to him. I'm going to hunt him down, that motherfucker, and toss his ass over the Golden Gate Bridge by my fucking self." Donald Trump's Department of Justice in the Northern District of California declined to prosecute. On May 14, 2025, on Twitter, responding to something I posted, an individual said, "No, it wasn't Eric, and now I'm going to kill you." The Department of Justice from the Southern District of Texas declined to prosecute. May through December of 2025, we received messages at my office that said, "I hope somebody shoots you and your children and your wife in the head. Pew, pew, motherfucker, pew, pew." I would stay indoors as much as possible, and my children, unfortunately, have to do that. The Department of Justice has not charged this individual and cited that he's a prolific caller and has health conditions, although what we have found in our own investigation and his voicemails is that he has said he will employ others to do this. The President can come after me. It's fine. I'm in the arena. So are these folks. But we never expected that the Department of Justice would not seek to prosecute and investigate those who are making threats against us. And that would include those on that side of the aisle. And I'm just asking for your help to protect life, because life is at risk with the environment we're in right now.
Congressman, I completely agree with you. I know about several of those personally involving you. I believe one has been charged publicly, and there's something I would be happy to talk to you about off camera, but I can assure you that they are very serious. They are being looked into, and I can give you more details on those. None of you should be threatened, ever. None of your children should be threatened. None of your families should be threatened. And I will work with, you can come into my office any day. I will work with all of you on both sides of the aisle if you are ever threatened. And I'll gladly talk to you after this hearing about your cases. But I can tell you some of them are very active.
Appreciate that. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back, and we're sorry for what the gentleman and his family have had to go through. We appreciate what the Attorney General said. And I think some of the things that the gentleman from California related, we can all relate to. And it's unfortunate, it's wrong, as the Attorney General said, and we appreciate the help we get from the Justice Department. With that, we will now recognize the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Van Drew.
Thank you, Chairman.
Now, Van Drew is a trip.
I don't know where to begin. Thank you for being.
This Van Drew is a trip. He is the. I used to live in his district years ago. He was a stout Democrat, and when he realized that Trump was going to win the 2020 election, he shifted and he became a Republican. And now he is the most pretend MAGA of MAGAs that you could ever see out there. So let's just see what he's just so he could stay and keep his job. Let's see what his perspective is.
Big deal for Maxwell, but it wasn't a big deal. Then we get a new administration, and all of a sudden it's a big deal, and they feign concern, they're upset, they're investigating. They had all these years and all this time. And in fact, Stacey Plaskett, and we all know that name, when they had a congressional...
All right, so he's going to be hyper-focused on the nonsensical, argument that right now that why didn't the Bidens do it, right? To sort of cover up for Donald Trump. I've got to tell you guys, though, I appreciate what Swalwell was saying, and he's in his situation is horrific, that he's dealing with. But again, to have such a astute voice and an astute prosecutor, former prosecutor, have an opportunity to, to kind of hammer Bondi about the issues of the moment. I think that was a waste of his time. I think, having a moment of general consensus in this particular hearing is asinine. That's a conversation he could have gone to Bondi's office. He could have come out publicly and spoke about it. She would have publicly, spoke positively about it, and it could have been more. It could have been rectified. Clearly, the whoever the goofballs are in his district, whoever the U.S. attorney is in his district, we're trying to protect the village idiot by protecting these maniacs that were threatening him, and by not prosecuting them. Clearly, it was a political decision, but she never was going to admit to that here. And again, I think he squandered his moment, and I know it feels almost inappropriate to say that because of what he's dealing with. But the reality of the politics of the moment is bigger than that, bigger than a situation that could have been handled, especially with him being one of the strongest voices right now. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the Democrats are fucking this up. It's such a talented, there's so much talent on this committee that there's no excuse right now, for this. And I agree with you, Gamer Vet Dad. You're making the argument here that Swalwell put her in an open forum in denouncing political violence. and I agree with you there, on that. But I think she'll always denounce political violence, even as she advocates for it, even as herself, fails to prosecute those who are engaged in political violence, while encouraging political violence again from anybody that Trump doesn't like. And I think that I don't think it matters, is what I'm trying to say. And I just don't feel like it was the moment I feel like he squandered the moment. Um, and I don't know, but we can agree to disagree with that. I just feel like subtlety. This is not a moment for subtlety. Um, this is a moment where they should be hammering her on the Epstein cover-up nonstop, one thing after another, and they should be hammering her on her efforts to on her efforts to use the Justice Department as she's like the personal enforcer for the village idiot Donald Trump. We should be so deep into that right now. We should be so deep into the Epstein cover-up and so deep into the fact that she herself is functioning as the chief prosecutor for the village idiot's enemies, perceived enemies. That's not even a part of this hearing at this point. It doesn't even matter. Like it's not even. It's not in the. It might as well not even be there. The Epstein files and judicial overreach might as well not even be a thing. And this is a pathetic fucking hearing for the Democrats. This is an easy slam. That is big news that the entire country is watching right now. The entire nation is. It's a rare moment that the nation is. Wait, hang on.
Ms. Crockett from Texas is recognized for UC.
Thank you so much. Donald Trump's approval rating implodes on his strongest issue. This is from Newsweek today. It says 40% of people approve of Trump's handling of immigration and border security, while 60% disapprove.
Without objection, admitted. Now I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Liu.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. I'm going to show you two photos.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She's such an idiot. She can't even say yes without being dramatic.
Please put the photos back up. That we are looking at a sex trafficking victim. Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew. Last July, you closed the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew. So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr. as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures, but you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them. So I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I answer
question.
your question about protecting
You answered the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump.
She's such a
Who
dunce.
is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's a video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party
Good.
that Trump attended?
That's the
with
question
Jeffrey
we want.
Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has
She's so
committed a
bad
crime.
at this.
Everyone knows that.
Such
This
a-
has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one
I'm-
that asked that those files
I'm reclaiming my time.
be
I got
released.
your answer. You said there's no
President
evidence.
Trump asked
Chairman, please stop the clock.
my
Please stop
sign
the clock.
the legislation. This is
Time.
this
I'd like
is
to
ridiculous.
reclaim my time.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay.
Good, Ted.
I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape.
She could
you
just
said
shut up.
There's no evidence of a crime. I'm
She
showing
can't shut
you.
her mouth.
Here is a witness
Good for
statement
you,
who called
Ted. This
into
is the kind of
FBI's
questioning we
Threat
need.
Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately.
Good tip. Good, Congressman.
Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing
Time of the
concludes.
gentleman has expired.
Good.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't
We
know
need
how you
more of
respond.
that.
No one can-
I did
Well,
not
can
ask a
respond,
question,
but
Mr.
he
President.
doesn't
You're
want
allowed
to talk
to.
about
I did
the
not ask a
horrific
question.
crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a
crime
question.
in his
She
state.
can't
Madam
just
Attorney
ad-lib
General.
stuff. I did not ask a question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be more than happy to let the Attorney General
Madam
respond.
Attorney General, would you like to?
Gentleman from Alabama is recognized for 5 minutes.
You have a few minutes to respond.
Thank you, Congressman.
And the great thing is when they let,
This
I
is
think they
what
should, the
Congressman
Republicans,
Liu
I think
didn't
the
want
biggest
to
mistake
talk
they're
about. He didn't want to
making
talk
is they're just
about
letting this idiot speak.
all the crime that is happening in his state. California refuses to honor detainees because of its dangerous sanctuary city policies. The refusal means California has released 4,561 criminal illegal aliens onto its street. The crimes of these aliens include 31 homicides,
Gamer vet
661
dad, she's,
assaults.
hang on, what do you say? She's going to need a break soon because her happy time nose dust is wearing off. Oh my God, that's pretty funny. That's guys, I haven't seen your comments in a while. Pam, that's not relative. He did great. Yeah, I think Ted Lieu, if you have, I'm going to put put her back on in a minute so we can listen to her incessant babble. But if you have, more questioning, I would have liked to have seen Ted Lieu's type questioning throughout the entire hearing. I think that would have been extraordinarily more effective. I think we'd be at a different place now. I think she would be extraordinarily rattled. I mean, she is at this point. But I think, and she's rattled from nothing, right? But that being said, I think Ted Lieu sort of kicked it off, and we'll see who's next. I mean, I'm hoping it's, just kind of looking at who's here. I really hope, I'm hoping you see, I'm hoping it's Moskowitz or I want to see either Moskowitz or Goldman next. I mean, there might be others who I don't know. I want to see Crockett a little bit further down the line after she's kind of bruised a little bit. And let me just make sure she's not answering a Democrat's question.
In China, sent to our country, and have the potential to be.
So after, I'd like to see, I'd like to see Jasmine Crockett toward the end, but I'd really like to see Moskowitz next. I think you would get, I think you would kind of push her a little bit further. Maybe Jonah Goose, although or Scanlon. I'd be good with any of them. What I don't want to see, I don't know if there's anybody who I don't think is going to be strong. I've heard Jesus Garcia, do this kind of thing before, and I don't think he's going to be very strong. I hope we don't see him next. But he could surprise us. I don't know. Who's she talking to right now?
That's happening in all of our states. And
so we'll see. We'll see who comes next. Gamer Vet Dad, her defensiveness shows that they are hitting the right nerve. I agree with you with that. I mean, that's been that. I think just. Oh wait, who's she talking to?
Had a child. I wish I could think of the state it was in, but we have already had someone overdose, and we have to get together on this, and we have to get on the front end of this.
Oh, shut up! I don't care. And I think Gamer Vet Dad, I think she was like that from the beginning. I think her opening statement was indicative of her defensiveness.
One vape is 20 cigarettes, I believe it is, but also.
Okay, let's just let her go. So, I mean, whenever she speaks, I think that's why she's so bad at this. I think she is just habitually and consistently and forever defensive. I think that's her. I think that's just. I think that's just how she operates, and I think that's why she's such a terrible performer. I think that's why she's such a terrible actress, because I think somewhere deep in, unlike Donald Trump, who's so fucking delusional, the Village Idiot, more often than not, he doesn't know that he's lying. He believes his delusion as his frontotemporal dementia continues to get worse, as he gets sicker. He becomes more and more delusional, but there is that small percentage of time now where he's just blatantly lying, and he doesn't believe what he's saying. And you can see how defensive and out of control he is. And I think, although I think Bondi could be a little bit of a sociopath, she's not completely crazy. And she knows when she's lying. And I think there may even be a little bit of a conscience in there. So I think she's incessantly and consistently defensive. Let me just, I don't know what I did here. Uh-oh. Sorry about that, guys. I just did something here. Hang on, let me just pull this. Let me just get this hearing back on track. Sorry about that. Uh-oh. Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe C-SPAN lost the feed. Let's try this again.
Las escuelas públicas de la
Sorry,
ciudad de
but
Nueva York
we have
hablan
to
su
sit through
idioma.
the commercial first. That's just the way C-SPAN rolls. Andy Biggs. What is Biggs babbling?
Plaskett exchanged texts with Epstein during 2019 congressional hearing.
Objection.
New York judge allows Epstein victims' claims against Plaskett to proceed.
Objection.
Hakeem Jeffries
I think,
solicited funding
I guess
from Epstein in
Epstein probably
2013 after
Biggs, a
financier
white
was convicted
nationalist
of
member
child
of the
sex
House.
offender.
Objection.
Jeffrey Epstein was invited to dim fundraising dinner and to
Probably
get to know
called a point
Hakeem
of order
Jeffries by firm working with Brooklyn's Barack.
to put these
An email
things in the
from
record.
Leslie Groff to Jeffrey Epstein
These
concerning Hakeem Jeffries.
documents in the
fundraising.
record.
Epstein
He's
file
such a
says Biden was
he's
replaced
such a
in
vile
2019?
creature.
Question mark?
Thank
you.
Andy Biggs.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from California is recognized. Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Ms. A.G. Bondi. I agree with you. Our top priority should be protecting Americans. In my past life in the California State Legislature, I did a lot of work on solving sex crimes, passing legislation.
I don't really know him.
To update
I don't know
our
anything
codes.
about him.
And I found that the biggest challenge to solving sex crimes is reporting them. Victims have to have the guts to stand up to report those sex crimes. But it's not easy. It's the most unreported sex crime there is. Crime there is sex crimes. It's painful, humiliating. A lot of time the victims don't think anything's gonna come out of their reporting these crimes. Then we have adults who as children were molested, boys and girls who will live in silence for the rest of their life. I believe the Epstein files are just one of many sex rings, sex crimes taking place in our society today. I hear 1,200 Epstein victims, some additional victims as young as 9 to 10 years old. The challenge I have today, what bothers me today about this hearing, Madam AG, is what's the message we're sending out there on Main Street? Shouldn't ask a question I don't know an answer to, but I'm going to ask the victims behind you right now. First, can you please stand up? And then, can you please raise your hand if you think after everything you've heard today, you feel that our AG, the feds, have your back? Do we have your back? Raise your hand if you're confident that we got your back. And that's the issue, Madam AG. We got to make sure that victims stand up and report the crimes. Otherwise, we're going to be taking a step backwards. Today, AI, cyber, social media, the new
You're
realm
right.
for people to be hurt, attacked
Kimmy, you're
sexually.
right.
These are the areas I'd
this is a
welcome the
waste of time.
opportunity to work with you on. It's not your problem.
Another waste
it's not
of
my
time.
problem. It's our problem. But to have redacted
Well, maybe
files
not. Let's see how he does.
that are not showing us the names of these predators is wrong. These are very powerful people. This was a very expensive business, and we don't know who they are. I would imagine they're very prominent Republicans, very Republican Democrats, and we are covering up for them. We got to know what's going on out there, Madam AG. It looks like you want to say something. I'm going to give the opportunity to address my statement.
I look forward to working with you on any crimes involving child sex predators, children, and also cyber crimes. That is a tremendous problem now throughout our country. AI, you are correct. AI is causing great problems online we're working on that though. AI is an incredible tool, but it also can be fraught with peril with victims of crime. I've experienced that with someone I know who we've been trying to help. I look forward, though, to working with you on that and all
Madam,
cyber crimes. Can I?
Please, go ahead.
And as I said before, to any victims, we ask them to come forward to our office, and we want to work with them. I have never not worked with a victim, and I believe I've actually spoken to several of the
Madam, if I can reclaim my time, I only have a minute.
Behind me.
I can reclaim my time. I just think we start out by making sure those redactions are unredacted, those Epstein files, to make sure that the public, according to the law, following the law, that those names in those files are
This is
made
pathetic.
public. We have to make sure we tell
No
those
excuse
predators
for any member
there
of
is no
Congress
place
to
for
come
them
into
to
this
hide,
fucking hearing
and if they
unprepared.
commit the crime, they're going to fry for it.
I'm sorry.
It starts with showing us the names of the perpetrators in the Epstein files.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. So if any man's name was redacted that should not have been, we will, of course, unredact it.
Any man's name was
If a
redacted that should.
victim's name
Every man's name was
was
redacted that should not have been.
unredacted, please bring it to us and we will redact it. We were given 30 days to review and redact and unredact.
Every man. They redact. Now, why
Millions
isn't he
of
saying you
pages of
redact? You. What do you mean if any
Our
man's
error
name?
rate is
You know,
very
his-
low,
The
but there
victims
are
are
always
right
going to
behind
be
you. We've
errors
got to convince
on
them.
both sides.
No, no, no,
We're
no,
doing
no.
a good job.
Congressman, what
Everything
the
we can
congressman
to help
needs to
victims.
say.
We will
Thank
do
you, Mr.
everything
Now,
we
let me
can.
just shut the fuck up, all of you. What the congressman needs to, let me just do it because they're not doing it. Congressman Liu did it. What the congressman needed to say was you redacted every man's name. You protected every man. So don't tell me that you're going to, that when any man's name was, that was redacted that shouldn't have been, you'll unredact it. You intentionally did this. And you intentionally did it because Donald Trump instructed you to. Tell me that that's not true. You're under oath. You're under oath, Madam Attorney General. You're under oath. Why didn't he do that? And how do you come in? How the fuck do you come in as a Democratic member of Congress? How the fuck do you come into this fucking hearing unprepared? I don't know anything about Congressman Luis Correa. I'm looking at his name right now. But this could be the biggest, most consequential hearing, certainly of this month. And to come in there unprepared and to use the victims as props. Stand up, everybody. Raise your hand. What are they, 9-year-olds? Raise your hand if, the way Congresswoman Jayapal did it, yes, that was effective. Can you apologize to them? Right? That was effective. They probably knew that was coming. But for Correa to handle this the way he handled it, it was pathetic. And then he did use his theatrics were stupid. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm fed up with this fucking hearing already with most of the Democrats. They're awful, except for a few. And there's no excuse to be awful. And I actually felt angry when I saw him have them stand up. Because raise your hand if this Department of Justice is supporting you. We all fucking know that. They've been complaining about that for months and months and months and months and months now. You didn't need to, and again, it was gross negligence from Congressman Correa, if I'm saying his name right, or Correa, Correa. It was gross negligence to not come in with his facts like Ted Lieu did. It was lazy as fuck for him to come in there, unlike Ted Lieu did, fully prepared with a line of questioning that would back this lying imbecile into a corner, and help to. She deserves to be rhetorically broken down. She deserves to be treated like garbage by the Democrats, and to be and for the lies that she tells to be fleshed out, where she is stammering in rage. And she's dumb enough and corrupt enough that they could get her there. But because you had something like and it wasn't just Congressman Correa, Congresswoman Lofgren, who's usually very strong, just tripped over her own fucking words. Congressman Johnson, tried to get everything he could in there. And nobody gave a shit. Congressman Cohen basically wasted our time. He said nothing. And I am so incensed, feeling so incensed by this fucking hearing. You don't get these opportunities to get a clown like her after having what the fuck? It is the most significant cover-up in the history of the United States of America, at least in modern history in the federal government. And you're covering up a fucking sex trafficking, an international sex trafficking ring where the president of the United States is implicated. Don't fucking tap dance around it. And to come in unprepared, that's a disgrace. That is a disgrace. I hate to say this about the people who are on the right side of history, but with few exceptions today, this has been a disgrace. And I agree with you, Lacey. Why didn't they coordinate their questions beforehand? Why is this such a clusterfuck? I am I'm sorry, guys. Still have this postnasal drip. I am just astonished. I did not expect this to be this bad. I didn't think it could be this bad with this. And again, you have some real, qualified Democratic members of this committee coming up to ask questions. But being where we are at this moment is fucking unbelievable to me.
Donald Trump is coming to the rescue.
Well, thank you very much. And unfortunately, I think you'll find that what's happening in California pales in comparison to what's been going on in Minnesota. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Actually, I think the gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I'm here. On September 25th, President Trump signed a memorandum known as NSPM 7, purporting to address domestic terrorism. But Americans across the political spectrum were immediately alarmed by the memo's blurring of the line between unlawful conduct and constitutionally protected speech and activity, as well as its call to investigate, prosecute, and dismantle groups that the president and Stephen Miller described without evidence as, quote, an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. Now, counterterrorism experts were further alarmed by the administration's singular focus on left-wing extremism, combined with the sudden deletion from the DOJ website of decades of research and law enforcement analysis, which had concluded that right-wing extremism poses the greatest terrorism threat to Americans. The president's memo broadly and vaguely links violent conduct to ideologies, and it targeted specifically anti-American, anti-Christian, and anti-capitalist beliefs, as well as, quote, hostility to so-called traditional American views on family, religion, and morality, end quote. President Trump has repeatedly and openly, however falsely, tried to brand his political opponents with these sentiments listed in his memo. But as you know, as a lawyer, holding beliefs that the White House disagrees with is not a crime. And the statute defining domestic terrorism requires criminal acts, not just thoughts and ideas. That's why legal experts, nonprofit leaders, religious freedom, and civil rights advocates immediately raised the alarm that the new presidential directive was a politically motivated attack on civil society designed to silence those who disagree with the administration. So, Ms. Bondi, Section 3 of that memo directed you, as Attorney General, to submit to the President and Stephen Miller a list of groups or entities whose members are engaged in acts that meet the definition of domestic terrorism. And then on December 4th, you directed the FBI to work with a variety of law enforcement entities to compile a list of groups and entities engaged in such acts by January 3rd, 2026, and to update that report every 30 days thereafter. So can we assume that you or persons under your direction at the Department of Justice have prepared that list of groups or entities who are designated as domestic terrorist organizations? And I just remind you that's a yes or no question. Did you prepare the list?
I'm not going to answer it yes or no, but what I will say is I know Antifa is part of that. I will talk to you about that.
I'm reclaiming my time. I asked
you
whether you
an
prepared
Antifa member
a
was
list.
arrested in Minneapolis
I'm
federal court
reclaiming
for
my
cyber
time.
stalking.
Did you
they
have
ask a question
list?
and don't want an answer.
The answer is yes or no.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Pennsylvania. Gentlelady can proceed.
Okay. So will you commit to providing this committee with any list of organizations that you have recommended be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
We will comply with the law in all matters.
Will you commit to provide this committee with your list of entities that you recommend be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
I'm not going to commit to anything to you because you won't let me answer questions.
Okay. Well, then we do understand that your current position is that you have a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress. And I'd remind you that when the U.S. government designates an entity as a foreign terrorist organization, it must report that to Congress and to the entity, because the government can make a mistake and the entity has the opportunity to contest it. So your position seems to be that if you falsely designate an American or an American organization as a terrorist group,
that about sums
there's
it up,
nothing
Tina.
they can do about it.
It sums it up.
I think we get it. You don't want to answer the question.
No, you don't get anything regarding public safety.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Thank you for the insult. It's clear you didn't come to
good.
Congress prepared to answer questions that the American people
That was
have
good.
every right to have answered. But if you were to prepared to answer truthfully, here's what we expect the facts to show. The administration is keeping lists of Americans who the White House says are engaged in domestic terrorism. Those lists could include Americans who have not committed any acts of terrorism, but simply disagree with this administration, people like Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And your list may include clergy, elected officials, and members of indivisible groups across the country. And those lists likely don't include Proud Boys or Oath Keepers who were actually convicted. Americans have never tolerated political demagogues who use the government to punish people on an enemies list. It brought down McCarthy, it brought down Nixon, and it will bring down this administration as well.
And you're right.
That's
All right, that was a little more effective. I thought that was I didn't like where Congresswoman Scanlon was going in the beginning, but she was prepared, she timed it, she had a narrative, she flattened Bondi. Bondi just said stupid things in response, and it was, is this Massey?
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production
Massey, this should be
that are
good.
emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victims' lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact. A list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victims' survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking. Co-conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files. But he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there.
Yes.
And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them.
Good.
And then
This is
there's
what we
some of
need
these
to
files
hear.
you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
No, you can't. You can't, Dingbat. You
Let
can't.
me finish my answer.
No. Don't let her finish,
We corrected that
Massey.
within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my
I'm
time.
going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time. Mr. Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time?
Yes. I feel like I want to say, Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from.
All right, I'm reclaiming my
Can I give
time.
my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman,
Because I
may I
have
give
another
my
question.
answer on that?
Shut up, Pam.
This is a political joke, and I need to give my answer. on
This
that.
is good. This is what we want to
Attorney
see.
General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
This is what I've
Within
been
40
waiting for.
minutes, you asked me a question.
This is a
Within
disaster
40
for Trump.
minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
co-conspirator.
and we invited
You know what?
you
Show the
in.
video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Gentlemen,
You need to
Oh, this is great. This is great, guys. That's what we've been waiting for.
Time and remind the witness of the rules
Himself,
here.
there is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI.
She's such a dimwit. She's such a fucking idiot.
The last 4 years, did you talk about Epstein?
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because
time
this
when
is
you don't-
bigger than Watergate.
when I don't answer a question the
This
way you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
Now,
where the
I want to know at what point
This is good.
did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has
Which,
expired.
may she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Even Massey's laughing at her.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could she answer the question?
Chairman, I was wondering.
The gentlelady's allowed, the Attorney General's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's questions, Republican, Democrat.
I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right. This is an example. I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at them.
Without objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from AG Bondi to Kash Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because they're still redacting files.
Chairman, are we going to recess for votes?
Yes, we are.
I'm submitting for unanimous consent a document of 17 individuals who've resigned because of the Epstein files.
Without objection.
That's the soundbite. We'll see what else happens, but that's the soundbite. That's what's going to be on the news.
But one thing I've learned here of late, they'll wait on us. How much time do we have? Oh, they just called. Okay. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Maryland.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by saying I appreciate what you said, Attorney General Bondi, and you said it to me personally, that you take the personal security of every member of Congress seriously and that people can contact you about that. And in these times, that's a very serious matter. So I thank you for that. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Constitution is the Domestic Emoluments Clause. And it says that the president is limited to his salary in office and cannot receive any other money from the federal government while he's in office. He cannot be increased by $1. This president is the first president in U.S. history who has repeatedly sued the federal government for $230 million for the judicial search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, which was perfectly lawful and was never struck down. But now he's suing the IRS for $10 billion. He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which I think is around 80% of its annual budget, because his tax returns were leaked. And they were illegally leaked by a private contractor who actually is in prison now, Charles Littlejohn. But he wants $10 billion. Now, I want to ask you the question of whether you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for you to settle that $10 billion case or any of the other claims that the president has made against the government. He himself has remarked, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the deal, right? And he says, I kind of have to work it out with myself. Do you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for the president to
She doesn't
work
even know
out
what the
a
Domestic
deal
Emoluments
from people
Clause
who are
is,
his
but let's hear what she
subordinates
says.
under his unitary executive theory to get money in one of these cases?
I'm not going to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, so theoretically you're saying because his privacy rights were violated in that tax case, and they were. I'm with the president on that. I mean, his Mar-a-Lago thing is ridiculous, but there's no doubt that his tax returns, despite the fact that he promised to release them, despite the fact that every other president released the tax returns,
I've been telling you, Gator,
he
that
suffered
she's an
embarrassment when
imbecile.
it showed that he hadn't paid taxes for several years, and he had a right for that not to happen. Now, I want to turn back to the Epstein survivors, because President Trump may have been a little bit embarrassed by the release of those tax returns. How much do you think the claims of these survivors are worth? As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
I'm going to teach you the rules again. You're the Attorney General of the United States. We have rules here.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
You're obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time restored. I'd like my time restored.
In your district. In your district, and you don't even know about it, about keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. The gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this. Because this is the Attorney General of the United States, whose job is law enforcement. We've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before. We have only 5 minutes, and so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to
Excuse me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too. So, Ms. Bondi, the way it works is we ask you a question, and you answer it, and if you go off on a wild goose chase, another tangent, you start reading statistics, or you start talking about stuff going on in our district. And by the way, I invite you to my district. Come to my district, but that's not what we're here to do today. Okay? So, and you do that, then we're allowed to say we reclaim our time. At that point, you have to be quiet. You have no choice. You have to be quiet. So I hope you understand the rule of this point. Now, here's what I want to ask you. You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
Lady can respond. She wants to.
Thank you, Chairman. He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own district who preyed on girls.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, you know what? If he were part of the Epstein investigation, you wouldn't do anything about it.
Online chat rooms and committed sextortion. Yet he didn't even know in your tiny little district who he was.
Mr. Chairman, she's embarrassing you.
This
is your committee, and she is embarrassing
you.
The time of the gentleman has expired. I would remind the committee that last Congress, Secretary Mayorkas was here numerous times, and he wouldn't answer our questions, even when we sent them to him ahead of time in writing. So
come on.
That's what we've had to deal with. I think the Attorney General is doing just fine.
Come
we
on,
have votes
Jim.
shortly. I will go to the gentleman
You're better
from Virginia,
than that.
and then we will take
you're
a
not,
break
but
to
come
head to
on,
the floor.
Jim.
I thank the chairman, Attorney General Bondi. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to thank you for your work at DOJ in restoring the rule of law.
All right, guys, I'm so sorry, but on that note, we have our daily briefing at 12:30. I know they're going to go for a recess, I think, at any within the next couple of moments anyway. So I'm going to have to wrap the live right now. Thank you so much for being here. Hop on to C-SPAN. I'm going to keep it going while I'm in my daily briefing. But hop on to C-SPAN, continue following it. I also have to run to the bathroom really fast. I think that Massey interaction is the interaction that we needed to see. I think there'll be more coming up. I'm going to keep an eye on this. I hope you guys do too. Maybe I'll come live again after our, after our briefing. I love you guys. 1 minute at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time, one live at a time. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks so much for being here, everybody.